It's Paul Marsh, and I'm delighted to say that I've been joined by James Johnston. James, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for having me on.
So you're in the UK right now. This is this your first time in the UK?
It's my first time really being here and kind of getting to see the UK. Have stopped in London a couple of times for a day or two on my way through to Europe or something like that. But no, this is my first time here in London, and I'm loving it. It's been great.
Well, you brought the weather with you, so thank you for that. We do appreciate that.
No worries at all. I didn't quite realize how dreary it's been for the last few months, until I've been talking to a few people and they're very thankful to see the sun.
I think something like officially it's rained at somewhere in the UK for 2 months.
Yeah, I'm glad that I could bring a bit of the Australian weather over.
Well, you're going to be coming back in the summer. You are coming to Country Calling Festival.
I certainly am, and very excited. First time playing in the UK, and I think I've been told that Country Calling Festival is a hell of a festival, and it gets a little bit rowdy, which will make me feel right at home. But no, it's exciting. I've been, when I share things on social media, I often get so much interaction from over here in the UK, and people asking me to come over. So it's nice to finally be able to deliver on that.
Now, so you are sharing the bill with the likes of Palmer Lee and Randy Houser. Obviously, you get a fair amount of country music festivals out there in Australia as well. So, have you shared the bill with some big names like this before?
Randy, I have, yes. It'll be my first time for Palmer Lee. But yeah, absolutely. Australia, as it is having a big moment here in the UK, it's also having a big moment in Australia at the moment. And all the superstars of Nashville are coming over at the moment, touring through, and I've been lucky enough to jump on the bill with a few of those. So yeah, it's been great.
Does it feel in Australia right now? Does it feel kind of like how it feels in the UK and I guess Canada to a certain degree, where we're all playing like the little country cousin?
Yeah, it will always be that. I think Nashville will always be the home of country music, and it will trickle out from there. But it's exciting. I think in saying that, country music's coming from so many different places now
Yeah.
as well. It's there used to be a time when it could only really come from Nashville. If you wanted to make it as a country artist, you could only be signed out of Nashville. That's not happening as much anymore. There's artists that are breaking out of, even in the States, out of New York and out of LA and out of Canada and, hopefully out of Australia. So that's kind of exciting.
Well, obviously you've got Keith Urban. Keith Urban, I know, has been in Nashville for quite some time. I don't think we've had any UK artists quite that big break into the country music scene. Do you feel like Keith Urban is opening doors for people from Australia, or is it like, well, no, there's one already, so we don't need another one?
Keith had his moment 20 years ago. And when I say that, he's still having a moment. He's still a superstar. But he truly was. He was killing it 20 years ago. So I feel like there is space. He will be. He's one of the foundation guys. And he changed country music in Nashville. And a lot of people, when you go to Nashville and you talk about that, they say that he did change the game. But at the same time, I think the space, and I think especially now with the way that the world is and with social media, that there is so much more space for artists to break out in lots of different ways because, I think you can, as an artist, you can just find your home and it might be completely different to another artist. Doesn't necessarily have to be just one way of making it.
I feel I need to warn you. So I mentioned earlier you're coming to the UK again in the summer for Country Calling. I feel I need to warn you, unless anybody else has already done this, about the UK summer. It may be a
Okay.
little different to the summer you experience in Australia in the fact that, we get 3 days of sun and we just make the most of it, but you don't know when they're coming.
Right. Okay. Well, fingers crossed that it lands, right in August, and that is the beauty. But at the same time, I said this yesterday, but if it's pouring rain and if you're willing to be out there in your wellies in the mud, I will be on stage singing still. So I'm not too afraid of a bit of wet weather. That's okay.
Well, listen, we are used to doing festivals in the rain, in the mud. I'm sure you've seen all of the images of Glastonbury and all the other usual bits and pieces. So the rain, the mud, it doesn't phase us one little bit.
I gotta say that there is something to be said for when it's raining. That is, it kind of creates a bit of chaos. And as a musician, that's a lot of fun. You know, it's everyone stops caring about what they wore, or taking too long to do their makeup or the new boots. Everyone, it's just like a level playing field. Everyone just becomes dirty and muddy, and they're like, "All right, let's just have fun."
So back out in Australia, you've won yourself some golden guitars. You've got ARIA nominations. How does that, is that a big deal out there? Is that like the Brits here in the UK, I guess?
Yeah, in our world, yeah, that's our kind of our big awards, especially in country, and the Arias is that's our call it the Brits, or the
Yeah.
Grammys in America and that sort of thing. So it is a great honor to take out some of those awards for sure.
So what was that like getting that nomination?
It's funny, I think for me it's that, I guess, that moment of validation a little bit, but it's one moment of validation, but at the same time, I personally, it's not what I'm always striving for at the same time. For
Yeah.
me, sometimes the little moments are equally as powerful in a strange way. It's that one fan that comes up to you and says, that song changed my life. The story, or it's seeing, going to your own show and seeing a whole crowd of people singing your songs that you wrote in your bedroom back to you. For me, those are the moments that I live for. That the awards are a great thing, and I'm very humbled when I receive them. But at the same time, it's they're not my driving force.
I always find any award nomination or anything like that, it's like a cherry on top. It's not necessary. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not everything. It doesn't make the cake, but it's nice.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is, and it's always nice. You dress up and you feel good. I get to take my beautiful wife out, and we get to have the whole experience. So that's always fun too.
Let's talk about your music. Like you say, you've been going great guns in Australia for a while. The track One More has just been doing fantastic things, and we're excited to bring it to the UK.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's kind of found its home here through the line dancing community, which has been really exciting. There was a line dance called Strummingbird, which was a big festival back in Australia. It was kind of the biggest festival we ever had. It was about 30,000 people at this event. And they made the line dancing for it, and all of a sudden, somebody, a few weeks later, sent me a screenshot of the charts, the line dancing charts, and the most popular song in the UK for that time was One More Strumming Bird. So that's been kind of cool, and I feel like the line dancing community for me has been a massive gateway to the rest of the world. A lot of my songs have found their home there, and that's kind of why I want to come here. I'm doing a little pop up thing at a bar called Little Nashville in London, and playing the songs there. So I'm excited to see everyone doing their thing and dancing to those songs. It's going to be great.
I love Lil Nashville. I went there for the opening night. You got to try the food. The food there is pretty good.
Good to know. All right, I'll definitely do
that. So when you are writing, you talk about the line dancing. When you're sitting down and writing your music, do you just write whatever comes naturally, whatever comes onto the page, or do you sit down and think, right, I need to write a line dancing tune, I need to write a commercial hit, I need to write a song for my mum, whatever it is, do you sit down and target a song, or does it just whatever comes out comes out?
I think a bit of both. And why I say that is that there is moments where inspiration hits, and it is purely just this beautiful natural thing. And I often call those like the little gifts, and sometimes those songs will write themselves in 30 minutes. It's almost like I'm just the vessel to get that song out. And often they're the songs that kind of, they're the change my life songs, the ones that are fairly easy to write. With that being said, something like One More, I walked into the room. I was writing with a buddy of mine, a fella called Morgan Evans over in Nashville, and I wanted to get that song. I said, I need a song for this big festival. I want it to be a celebration to the music, to the songs, to the people. And I said, I just need one more song before I leave Nashville. And he said, well, all right, that sounds like a song. And we ended up capturing that. So, I had a clear identity of what that song was. And absolutely, I'll see a line dancing video, and I was like, oh, that's a cool beat or something. I need to write something to that. So inspiration can hit from so many different ways. And then it's just a matter of just chasing that.
Well, so for those people that have heard One More, and we're about to play it again in a second, but for the people that have heard that, tell us about the album, Where You'll Find Me, and whether that sounds like the rest of the album or whether that stands apart.
Yeah, so where you'll find me is a mix of, my music, and a lot of my songs that are, kind of more the well-known songs are, they're pretty anthemic. They feel good. They celebrate country life, and there's definitely a part of the record that still does that. One More is one of those songs. But there's also shades on that record as well. It's kind of my, I guess, kind of coming of age record a little bit. There's moments of self-reflection in there. There's moments of there's loss. There's a story I wrote about losing my grandma, and watching my grandfather kind of try and hold it all together. And so there's different shades. It's not all just one big celebration party. But at the same time, at the core of what I love is going and playing big festivals and having people sing with me. So there's always going to be a good chunk of my albums that are rooted in, that sing along anthemic feel good country.
Now, I haven't been to Australia myself, but obviously I know a few Australian people, spoken to plenty, and obviously all the TV and movies. And it's the same with America. And I always find that Australia, the UK, and America are very, like you mentioned earlier about cousins, we're all very, very similar. There's always just those slight little differences. What have you noticed about us here in the UK compared to Australia, those slight little differences?
Oh, that's tricky. That's testing me because I feel like I need to take a little time to think about that. I would say I expected, and I don't want to be rude by saying this, but I expected the Brits to be a little bit more standoffish. But I have found everybody to be so lovely and really warm and welcoming. And maybe that's only because I'm Australian that they, want to be nice. I'm not sure, but everyone has kind of told me like, oh yeah, you go to London and they won't kind of, they're not quite as friendly as back home. But I got to be honest, that has been proven wrong since I've been here. So I'll have to think about that question a little bit more, the differences. But it's funny. I came from Australia, then I went to Nashville, and then was in Nashville for 5 days, and I came to London, and I'm here for 7 days, and I'm back home. So, you know, I was also went to a part of London when I first got here, which was apparently the Australia of London, which I didn't know, and everyone that I met was Australian. So I said, this feels weirdly familiar. The the one thing I would say though is that is striking is the age of everything. Since I've been here, I look at the pub. Well, that pub was built in the 1600s or
Yeah.
something like that. Nobody even knew Australia existed in the 1600s. So it has certainly been that's a little different to back home.
Do you know what I'd say, especially in London, that's one of the things that I really do like because obviously so much of London and so much of England was hit in the war that you have buildings, like you say, that have been stood since the 16th, 17th century. And then right next to it, you've got all this brand new stuff. And I like that about London, actually. I like how we really do mix the old with the new.
Yeah, and I feel like that is the people as well. There's a degree of I don't prestige or the way people hold themselves. There's a little bit of classic class in there, but there's also some the fashion and everything like that. There's a little bit of new, so I feel like that sums up the whole city.
I will say this. Have you been asked about the whole Vegemite and Marmite thing?
Not yet, but I did throw a. I was doing a radio interview in Nashville for another radio station we won't mention. But I got the presenter to eat Vegemite, and I feel like as an American, that was quite shocking to an American. I feel like Marmite, Vegemite, we're on the same page with that one. It's not too
I
different.
don't think it's a million miles away from each other, but it always makes me laugh. You see the viral videos, don't you, of the Americans trying something like the English mustard and the English Marmite and all of that type of stuff. And you can tell like the difference in American food because they literally slather it on so thick. And you think,
Hmm.
oh, that's not going to go well.
No, well, I kind of did the wrong thing by this guy because I gave him a spoonful of Vegemite, and knowing that that is definitely not how you consume Vegemite or Marmite for that reason. But I didn't have to tell you that, and it made for some good radio.
That's evil. Right, let's finish with a couple of those generic radio quickfire questions. Beach gig at sunset or a muddy field festival in the rain?
Muddy Field Festival in the Rain, bring on country calling.
I love that you lied about that one. Fantastic. What song made you want to be a country artist in the first place?
Friends in Low Places by Garth
Oh,
Brooks. When I was 4 years old, was the first song that I ever sung, and it is still to this day one of my favorite songs.
that's my karaoke song. I love that. I love it.
Love
Uh,
it.
When you're starting out, did you ever picture yourself flying 10,000 miles to go and sing in Essex?
Yes and no. Yes, I always dreamed of taking country, being a country from 4 years old. If you asked me, I wanted to be a country music singer, and I wanted to be like the big stars that go around the world. So, as much as I would say specifically in Essex, no, but has this been a dream since the earliest memories? Absolutely.
And then lastly, to anybody that is going to country calling, they got no idea who James Johnston is, give them one reason why they are going to walk away a fan.
Because the show is not just about me. You don't come and sit and watch a James Johnston show. You come and be a part of a James Johnston show. And regardless of knowing my music or not knowing my music, I will have you singing and on your feet dancing and the whole bit because, we do it together. So you have to come.
I love that. I love that. Well, look, James, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. Enjoy your rest of the time here in the UK. Enjoy country calling, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.